welcome into Texans Today. Got a great show on tap for you. CJ Gardner-Johnson, what is the deal with his injury? Some positive news, finally, for Texans fans out there. We'll break that down. Also, Jimmie Ward, he was in the news cycle for not so good reasons as well. We'll talk about him. Could he possibly get cut this offseason? And then Matthew Stafford, Anthony Richardson, two quarterbacks the Texans could face this year. Could they both be out in week one? We'll break that down on today's program. Before we get going, just a reminder, we'll be live tomorrow, August 9th. 3 o'clock Central Time is kickoff. We're going live an hour before. Be there or be square. The first Texans live watch party of the season. And I'm just pumped to go. I'm pumped and ready for some Texans football. And we actually have a sub battle that we've been going all week long, us up against the Minnesota Vikings. And I am pleased to report to Texans fans, we have officially taken the lead. Woo, woo, woo. We are up 8 subs this week, and we're not stopping here just yet. It's going all the way to kickoff. So if you want us to beat the Vikings channel, not only on the field, but off the field as well, go down and hit that subscribe button. Free Texans videos all year long. And I can't let my buddy Patrick Seatman beat me. I'm too competitive. I can't let that happen. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. So if you're new to the program and you just hit the sub button, obviously, because you love the Houston Texans and want to support this channel, you probably don't know about our Toro Heads meter. This is how I break down stories on the show. If I give something 0 heads or fake news, it's not real. It's not happening. 1 Toro head, a small shred of truth. 2 Toro heads, people are talking. 3 Toro heads, pretty likely. And if I give something 4 Toro heads, H-Town, hold it down. It's happening. So without further ado, let's get into the first story on today's program. CJ Gardner-Johnson, is he out for the year? Fake news. Not happening. That is not going down. CJ Gardner-Johnson is not out for the season. This coming in from Ian Rappaport. Good news for Texans safety CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was carted off to practice today, did not tear his ACL. Did not tear his ACL. Sources say he's undergoing more tests, but initial tests have provided good news. And guys, thoughts and prayers, they worked yesterday. I was like worried all day long. I was like, is this going to be the second year in a row that the number 1 free agent acquisition / off-season acquisition for the Texans will not play the majority of the year? Luckily, we dodged a bullet on that one. So if you're pumped to get this great news, go down and hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, because I was sweating yesterday. I was worried that CJ Gardner-Johnson was going to be out the entire year. And I said, I think the Texans have the best secondary with CJ Gardner-Johnson in there at one of the safety spots. Jalen Petrie playing the nickel, Kalen Bullock at the other safety spot, and then obviously the 2 amazing corners in Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. I was just in shambles because I was like, dude, this was giving me shades of Stephon Diggs last year. He had so much promise. He had a good start to the season and then was out the rest of the year with injury. CJ Gardner-Johnson, that doesn't look like it's going to be his fate. We'll get more updates, and I'll give you more videos as we get more updates on CJ Gardner-Johnson. Another reason why you got to hit that subscribe button. But after initial tests, look like the ACL is fine, has a different injury. Don't know how long he'll be out, but my guess, based on how much he was in pain in that practice, I would not be surprised if the Texans put CJ Gardner-Johnson on that short-term IR, which means he'll miss the first 4 weeks of the regular season for the Houston Texans. I would say that's probably the most likely scenario at this point. And so that leads me to, do the Texans need to sign a safety? We talked about it on the show yesterday. If you didn't watch, here were the top 10 safeties on the market at this moment. Obviously, whenever the Texans, it looked like CJ Gardner-Johnson might be out the entire year, I said, go get Justin Simmons. Go get him right now. Now that the reports are a little different and it looks like we're going to get CJ Gardner-Johnson back, I think the signing of Jalen Mills does make sense. He worked out with the Texans this year, could be a good veteran option to just fill in at that safety spot for the time being. If you don't want to go all in and you want to, make sure CJ Gardner-Johnson has his spot to come back to, I think Jalen Mills is a good option. He's a nice chess piece that you can move all around the secondary. And like I said, been around the league a ton. Played for a lot of winning teams. I think Jalen Mills could be a great signing for this Texans team. Look for them to at least sign somebody in the secondary this week. What do you think, though? Do the Texans need to sign somebody now that we got that CJ Gardner-Johnson news? Give me a yes, give me a no down in the comment section. I'm going to say yes because of this next story. Jimmie Ward, could he get cut? I'm going to give this one 3 Toro heads, and I think it's starting to get pretty likely. Now, if you didn't see the news yesterday, coming in from Aaron Wilson, Texans Jimmie Ward arrested in Montgomery County for testing positive for alcohol, second time being arrested this offseason. Lawyer Steve Jackson told KRPC2 there was no contact with compliant. Court has a zero-tolerance policy as a sanction. He had to spend overnight in jail. There are no new allegations against Jimmie Ward. So no new, criminal, I would say, allegations towards Jimmie Ward, but I'm guessing it just violated his parole that he was drinking alcohol. I don't know if his parole officer knock came through, but we do know that there's an August 13th court date for Jimmie Ward. And DeMeco Ryans is boys with Jimmie Ward. They are very close. He was one of the first guys he brought over to Houston after getting the head coaching gig. The only thing is Jimmie Ward's been injured all offseason long. This is the second time Jimmie Ward's been in the news involving the police in not a good light. So I know Jimmie Ward, probably with the guys in the locker room, with DeMeco Ryans, probably a good teammate, a good guy. But with all of these things factoring and adding up, at what point do you cut your losses? At what point do you say, hey, we don't need to go down this road anymore with Jimmie Ward? It's probably better off for the team that we move on. And I think that's what DeMeco Ryans needs to look at. And he made a hard decision already this offseason, letting go of Bobby Slowick. He was close with Bobby Slowick, brought him over with him from the San Francisco 49ers when he became the head coach. And that was a tough decision for DeMeco Ryans to make. And this is another tough decision that DeMeco is going to have to make, whether or not to keep Jimmie Ward on this roster. I think it's better for the team if they went ahead and moved on from Ward, went ahead and signed somebody else that will be able to contribute this year. But we'll have to see what DeMeco Ryans does with this Jimmie Ward situation. Got one more story on today's show revolving around 2 quarterbacks the Texans might face. Matthew Stafford and Anthony Richardson, but not so fast. Before we get to that, Producer Lopez, gotta show some love to our sponsor of today's program, and that is to get some Texans gear. And I actually just realized that I didn't put it in there, but speaking of quarterbacks, I'm going to show y'all C.J. Stroud gear. Give me 1 second, Producer Lopez. I'm putting it in there right now. That's on me. Producer Lopez, one of the best in the biz. I actually forgot to move over a graphic, which should be going over right about now. We're going to be talking about Matthew Stafford and Anthony Richardson in just one moment. But speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk about RQB1. Do you need some CJ Stroud gear? Well, you can get it right now. All you got to do, go to chatsports.com/CJ Stroud. They have jerseys, all the different jersey combinations that you can think of. They got over there. They also have CJ Stroud t-shirts. They have the jersey. They have bobbleheads. They have autographed memorabilia. Everything around CJ Stroud, they got you covered. All you got to do, use this link, chatsports.com/CJ Stroud. It'll be in the comment section and description of today's video. If you need to go check it out, just click on that link. Go check out all the CJ Stroud gear that they have over there. All right, last story on today's show. Matthew Stafford and Anthony Richardson. Are they both going to be out week 1? I'm going to give this one 2 Toro heads. And let's talk about the guy that the Texans are going to face possibly in week 1 in Matthew Stafford. This coming from Ian Rappaport just a couple days ago. Sources, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is dealing with an aggravated disc in his back and has received epidural to help him deal with that. Guys out there, if you don't know what an epidural is, that's what women get when they are in labor. Whenever they're having a baby, they get an epidural. That's what Stafford's getting for his back right now. Seems to be a little bit serious, if you ask me. Los Angeles has called him week to week, being cautious, but plans for him to be ready week 1. And a lot of Rams talking heads, a lot of people close to the team are saying, oh, yeah, he's going to be good. And I will give it to Matthew Stafford. He has a lot of grit. Maybe one of the most injured guys in the league right now with the long list of injuries that Matthew Stafford has had during his career. And I get it. You can play through a lot of things. But a back is a tough one. A back is a really tricky injury because it affects everything you do. I had a back injury last year, and obviously I'm not saying I'm some sort of athlete, but it hurt laying down. It hurt doing everyday things. It hurt sitting down and getting up from the toilet. And you're telling me he's supposed to be a, NFL level quarterback with a back injury like that? Going up against the Texans defense, their edge rushers week 1? I don't think so. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Rams to play Matthew Stafford if he's getting epidurals at this point. We're a month away from that week 1 game, and he's getting epidurals. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I think we could see Jimmy Garoppolo in week 1 for the LA Rams. Obviously, Los Angeles, head coach Sean McVay, they're keeping it very close to their vest. But I think we might see Matthew Stafford sit out week 1. Now, he could prove me wrong. He's proved a lot of people wrong before with his injuries, but we'll have to see. I'll keep you updated with the status of Matthew Stafford leading up to that week 1 game up against the Rams. All right, let's go to Anthony Richardson, quarterback in our division. We actually don't play the Colts until the back half of our schedule, but if you didn't see the preseason game yesterday, this happened. Anthony Richardson got blown up, a blindside hit by David Ojabo, Ravens defensive end, and it led to this. Yeah, his pinky doing the little stanky leg right there at the end of his hand. Absolutely brutal, but decent news for Anthony Richardson and Colts fans. Jordan Schultz on the report. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson, who was declared out last night with a finger injury, had all his x-rays come back clean and will be back at practice in the coming days per source. Okay, decent news for Anthony Richardson, but why is he getting back to practice after his pinkies like that? I'll tell you why. It's because he's losing his job. He is not going to be the quarterback 1. If I had to put my money on it right now, he's going to start the year as the quarterback 2. And if I was to even go further and give you a hot take, I think by the end of this season, we will see Kirk Cousins play quarterback snaps for the Indianapolis Colts. Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, they're not it. Unless they go full tank mode, if they're trying to win, if they're trying to do something, make some noise in the AFC, it's not going to happen with Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones at the main signal caller. I think they call up the Atlanta Falcons at some point if they're serious about winning this year, which Shane Steichen and where he's at, I think he needs to win this year or he might get booted from the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Colts will at some point call the Atlanta Falcons and say, hey, what do you want for Kirk Cousins? Especially if Michael Penix looks good throughout the year. I think that's a real possibility. But if not, I could see Daniel Jones being the quarterback 1 for the majority of the season. Maybe towards the end of the year, they say, hey, let's see what Anthony Richardson has if they're out of the playoff hunt. But it's not looking good for Richardson going into this season. Little bit of a bust, maybe. Bust potential there in Indianapolis. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can do so at Jeremy Chuggs. My DMs are always open. And as I said, live watch party tomorrow. If you made it to the end of the video, make sure you hit that sub button, turn on your notifications, because we will be getting rowdy tomorrow live here on the channel for the Texans' first preseason game up against the Minnesota Vikings.